are going to be talking about functional analyses. So what is a functional analysis? It is a type of assessment where antecedents and consequences in the natural environment are manipulated or changed so that problem behaviors can be observed or measured under these individual conditions. And this just gives a clear picture to technicians and analysts on why a problem behavior might be occurring based on whether the behavior occurs in a specific condition. So functional analyses can be conducted in the natural environment, like classrooms or clinics, or in a simulated setting. And they should be individualized based on the client. So every functional analysis that you give should not necessarily be the same. You want to make sure that it is only based on that client's antecedents to problem behaviors. So the 5 conditions that are commonly looked at are the play or control condition, the attention condition, alone, escape, and tangible conditions. And these are all presented one at a time in an alternating sequence, and they can be repeated to see if there is consistency across the conditions of whether or not the behavior is or isn't occurring. So the first condition is the play or control. So this is going to be the baseline, which the other conditions will kind of measure against this one. So what that's going to look like is the client will have access to any preferred activities or reinforcers, social attention, and there's not going to be any demands placed. So if the client does engage in problem behavior, you're going to neutrally ignore or redirect the client. Next, we have the attention condition. So the antecedent conditions for this, attention is going to be diverted from the client. That could be the behavior technician or behavior analyst writing on their clipboard or doing some sort of work or talking to another therapist. If the client engages in problem behavior, you're going to immediately provide attention to the client in one of 2 ways. So that could be with mild reprimands, something like, please don't do that, or please stop, or a pleasant attention or statement, which would be, oh, I'm sorry, what's the matter? And you want to make sure that the type of attention is specified, because that may affect the different types of conditions. You could have one for each. And to get a clear picture of why the behavior is occurring, you would probably want to try both. Next is the alone condition. So in this condition, the client is alone in a room with not much stimuli like toys, work, or other people. So if they engage in behaviors, you're going to, again, neutrally redirect or ignore the problem behavior. And based on the client and the type of problem behaviors they exhibit, you want to make sure there are modifications for behaviors that might be dangerous to the client or others. So that should always be a consideration with any of these. Next, we have the escape condition. So antecedently, you are going to be giving task demands to the client using least to most prompting procedures. So that could be worksheets. It could be maybe not something as aversive. Another example could be folding towels. Just any sort of continual task demand. So you're going to be giving these prompts and demands continuously throughout this condition. And if the client engages in problem behavior, they will immediately receive a break or the escape from demands that is usually time limited. So it could be 15, 30, 45 seconds to a minute. And that would look like, removing any of the demand materials, and the clinician would stop giving verbal prompts to the client. The last condition is the tangible condition. So the antecedent conditions for this would be the client is playing with a highly preferred tangible or toy, and they or the clinician would remove it from the client, saying something like, "Oh, can I have a turn with, whatever toy, or we're all done playing with the toy." So the client still has access to moderate or neutrally preferred toys and also attention from the clinician. So if the client is to engage in problem behaviors, they would be given access to the tangible again. So the clinician would give it back to the client. And lastly, interpreting the results. So once you have the results of all the conditions, you can make a graph for each of them, and that will kind of tell you, the rates of behaviors for that specific condition, and you can visually inspect the graph to kind of determine or interpret the results of the functional analysis. And high rates of problem behavior within a condition would indicate that the behaviors are maintained by that condition's reinforcement. So if a client engaged in behaviors in the attention condition, that would essentially mean that their problem behaviors are being maintained by positive reinforcement from attention, and so on with all of the other conditions. So thank you, and I hope you guys have a good night.